Welcome. Today, we're embarking on a cinematic journey into a truly profound natural force. And no, actually, I'm not talking about gravity, and I'm not talking about the tides. I'm talking about a force that shapes our reality just as powerfully: human language. You see, we need to start thinking of the word not just as a simple tool, but as a living, breathing ecosystem, a place where empathy, culture, and power are constantly colliding and evolving. We're going to begin our journey with a pretty striking observation about the digital world we're all living in right now. This insight from Professor Annette Perry highlights a really fascinating tension. We live in this unprecedented moment where machines can perfectly mimic our syntax, our tone, and even our most sincere apologies. Yet, as research reveals, just because an output is syntactically perfect, well, that doesn't guarantee it actually has any impact. And that brilliant insight forces us to ask a really fundamental, almost existential question about the nature of connection today. If an algorithm can say, "I'm so sorry you're going through this," just as eloquently as your closest friend, does it carry the same weight?
Part 1. The Anatomy of Empathy. Exploring the hard science of human connection.
To really understand this, we have to look at the hard data. A massive empirical study published in Nature Human Behavior grounds this whole concept in undeniable reality. Across 9 different experiments, researchers observed over 6,000 participants, 6,282 to be exact. That is a huge sample size. And they tested something very specific. What happens when people read supportive responses to their emotional struggles and are told that the response came from either a fellow human being or an AI?
Now here's the crazy part. The words those participants read were literally identical. They were all generated by large language models. But when participants simply believed the words came from a human, they rated them as significantly more supportive and emotionally satisfying. The study revealed a stark biological reality. People fundamentally crave the struggle of human sincerity. We would actually prefer to wait days for a human reply rather than get an instant message from an AI.
Part 2. The Power of Storytelling. Looking back at our ancient traditions.
Long before algorithms, our ancestors sat around fires, transmitting survival tactics and tribal identity through spoken narratives. Researchers note that storytelling, it's not just entertainment. It is our evolutionary mechanism for transmitting values and fostering empathy across generations. From ancient fables to oral traditions, stories act as these incredible lenses through which we examine different viewpoints and ultimately realize that we aren't alone.
As the diplomat and former Under-Secretary General of the UN, Shashi Tharoor, elegantly notes, our shared words are our ultimate tool for navigating life. They're what bridge the gap between isolated minds. But it begs the question, what actually happens when a language is uprooted, transported across oceans, and completely adopted by a new culture?
Part 3. Evolution of an Idiom. The Linguistic Journey of Indian English.
Think of language like a living organism. It adapts fiercely to survive in its environment. Look at the fascinating historical journey of the word prepone. Shashi Tharoor famously thought he literally invented the word back in 1972 as a logical back construction of postpone. Well, it turns out it briefly surfaced in the US in 1913 and then in 1952. But it was in India that the word truly found its permanent home, surviving simply because it was incredibly practical for the people using it.
And this cultural adaptation brilliantly illustrates that Indian English isn't incorrect. It's a vivid, entirely valid linguistic reality tailored to a pan-national identity. I mean, think about it. If you tell an American you were mugging all night, they might call the police. But in India, it just means you were desperately cramming for your final exams. These adaptations, like history sheeter or the very polite, apologetic phrase, kindly adjust, show us exactly how language claims its own space and reflects a local sensibility. Yet we have to wonder how these culturally specific, deeply human tools hold up when they are thrust onto the massive, unforgiving stage of global geopolitics.
Part 4. Words on the global stage. The high stakes of diplomacy.
When we zoom out to the macro level, words become the precarious primary currency of international diplomacy. From the founding of the Fletcher School during an era of deep isolationism to the invention of UN peacekeeping during the Suez Crisis, and Kofi Annan flying into Baghdad in 1998 to negotiate a stand-down, words are literally the ladder that antagonists use to climb down from the ledge of war.
Right now, we find ourselves in a rather strange transitional period. We are heavily interconnected economically, yet politically, trust is deeply fractured.
In this fragmented world, global institutions have to navigate some really blurred alignments, relying almost entirely on shared language and highly imaginative communication to diffuse tension.
Tharoor sums this up with a rather sobering thought on modern geopolitics, highlighting the sheer fragility of dialogue today. The old belief that economic dependency would automatically guarantee peace? Well, that's given way to weaponized dependencies. But a newer, perhaps even more profound challenge to our shared truth is emerging, and it's not coming from foreign capitals, but from inside our own technology.
Part 5. The Artificial Illusion. The Era of Digital Disinformation. We are entering a digital landscape where the fundamental trust required for language to even work is being systematically dismantled. On the battleground of social media, the entire contest is over narratives. Discerning real, grounded facts from algorithmic fiction now requires an immense amount of intellectual integrity. The authority to define our shared reality is quite literally up for grabs every single second.
Tying this all back to that empirical AI empathy study we looked at earlier, the pure convenience of automated language is actively eroding the authenticity that human connection completely depends on. When we start assuming that every email, every apology, and every supportive text is polished or written by an AI, that perceived sincerity just vanishes. It leaves us facing a critical choice about how we want to operate in this new environment.
Part 6. Purpose in a Fractured World. Finding meaning moving forward.
Drawing on Tharoor's insights addressed to a graduating class, the ultimate call to action here is to embrace ambiguity, but to do so with intellectual rigor. Look, the world is always going to offer you easy metrics for success, salaries, fancy titles, but those are entirely external. What actually matters is your willingness to take responsibility, to use your communication for meaningful impact, and to embody a structural gratitude for the communities that shaped who you are.
In an ecosystem that is just flooded with disinformation and perfectly automated responses, maintaining our humanity is going to require the profound courage to engage genuinely. You're going to make mistakes. You will occasionally be spectacularly wrong, but that is simply the price of engagement. Retreating into a safe, silent indifference, that is the only real failure.
Words are what built our civilizations, stopped our wars, and connected our isolated minds. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder as you step back into the complex narrative of your own life. When the moment calls for you to speak, will you outsource your humanity to an algorithm, or will you find your own words?